Welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started if that's okay. Want to introduce myself. My name is Christine. I'm with the counseling department. And so we're going to talk about test anxiety today. I get that. Are there some of you that need to leave? This may go like 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not sure, but are those of you, there are people that have to leave sooner than that? Could you raise your hand?
It's 11:30.
Just 11:30. Okay. If anyone has to leave early, that's totally fine. That's why I wanted to make sure y'all had access to the slides. So you could, like, if you missed slides or whatever, then you have those. So anyway, yeah, I'm Christine. We're going to be talking about test anxiety. I can't remember if there was something else I was going to say. Oh, there's like reflection questions there. I do that a lot as an instructor. Obviously, I'm not your mom. You don't have to turn those into me. But you know, just things to be thinking about as you're going. I don't know if you take, you know, workshops or go to different things and you like, oh, I should remember that and I should put that into practice. And then we never quite do. Do you know what I mean? And so that's kind of the idea is I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff at you today. If you, but really, if you want to feel less anxious, there are certain, you have to put some of this into practice, right? And so that's just to maybe try to encourage you to do that a little bit more. So anyway, the agenda, what we'll be talking about, can stress be good? Yes, it can. General test anxiety tips, what happens in our bodies, in the moment coping skills, self-care to keep your overall anxiety low, root causes of test anxiety and what you can do about it. And then there's like resources at the end. One resource that I forgot to add is if you are diagnosed with anxiety or you want to get accommodations through we have our DRS office. I forgot to add that as a resource on the PowerPoint. I will do that. It's a Google slide, so I'll do it after the presentation. But just so you know, we have, it's potentially, if this is a huge issue for you, you may be able to get like accommodations that would be able to help you with that. So I was remiss in not putting that in the slides before now, but anyway, we'll get to that. I will add that. So why some stress is good. So there's this idea of like, or this concept of, well, we don't want to have any stress. Sometimes we tell ourselves, right? Oh, I don't want to have any stress, but a little bit of stress is actually good. If you had zero stress at all, you would have no motivation to like do well on tests or do anything really, right? So I think we need to kind of reframe how we think about stress and anxiety because a little bit of stress is actually good. We're going to have optimal performance if we have a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety. Of course, once it, tips a certain point and we come down into this where it's not helpful to us, it's actually harmful to us. Which is why we're here today, right? To talk a little bit more about that. And another way to kind of look at it, a funner graph, in my opinion, is this like less stress. You don't have any stress at all. You're meh about it. You don't care. I'm just going to play video games. And then, we're rocking it when we're in the middle there and then not doing so well on the other side. So, okay. So a little bit of stress is good. I think it's good for us to remember that. And then some general tips. So, overcoming test anxiety, I have some just 10 general tips for you just to kind of get us started. So being prepared. I have a friend who teaches high school science and, she talks all the time about people, her students will come to her and say, like, they say that they have test anxiety, but what it really is they're not studying for the test, right? And then they're understandably nervous when they get into the test. So test anxiety and not preparing are two different things. So we want the more you can prepare, and I get that y'all are in very rigorous programs, and so, right, that's easier said than done, but the more you can prepare, the more confident you feel, hopefully the less anxiety you feel. We're going to talk a little bit more about like physical wellness and how that plays into like anxiety, but we want to be able to get a good night's sleep. If you only get 2 hours of sleep the night before and you've had 3 Red Bulls and you're going into a test and sitting down, you are going to be, right? You are going to be anxious. You are going to be a jittery mess. So as much as you can, and I know that that's, again, right? When you're taking a full course load, maybe you're working, maybe you have a family, maybe you have all these different things. Sometimes that's hard, but getting a good night's sleep is, as much as possible, is good. Really, none of us should be drinking caffeine ever. I realize that's very hypocritical because I have some coffee right up here. But really, like, I cut out caffeine for like 2 years and my anxiety went way down. And then I started this, like, again, the cycle of like, oh, I didn't sleep well, so I'll have a coffee. And then I've gotten back addicted, honestly, to coffee. But anyway, caffeine, if you have trouble with test anxiety or anxiety in general, really caffeine is not for you. So think about that. Put that into your overall, how you think about it. Nutritious breakfast, right? Again, we talk about like fueling ourselves. If you have had nothing but Reese's cups for the last 3 days, like you're not putting your best self forward. Getting to class early, and or like getting stuff ready the night before. I don't know how many of you, like, in the mornings you're rushing around like a mad person trying to get everything together. It can be hard, okay? So, but that kind of sets the tone for your day, unfortunately. So as much as you can get ready the night before, leave early. So you get there early, then you can even have some time to look over your notes or something. Having a positive attitude, again, easier said than done, right? But like that, like I can do this, they say to have a superhero stance. And if you do that for 2 minutes, that it increases your confidence level. I don't know. I just feel silly when I do that. But the more confident that you can, tell yourself, I can do this. I am capable. I am a professional. I am whatever you want to talk to yourself. Reading every part of the test carefully. So you want to try to, sometimes when we're nervous about something, we rush through it. We rush to read the directions. We rush to read the questions, right? So really try to slow yourself down. And we'll talk about some like specific strategies, coping strategies for slowing yourself down in a moment. But really try to read carefully, read things more than once. So a blank page maximizes anxiety. So you're going to be anxious before you start. Once you kind of get into it and start doing some questions, you're going to feel better. So try not to stay in that space of like, oh my gosh, I have to start. Try to kind of, get started. That will help. Don't pay attention to what other people are doing. We don't know, I don't know if you've done that, but you're in a test and, all these people are like finishing and you're like, oh, must have been easy for them. Or, don't pay attention to what other people do. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. But on the other side of that, sometimes like you get done, but nobody else is done. And you're kind of like questioning yourself, like, did I do it right? Or like, what's going on? Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just worry about yourself. Watch the clock, but you don't want to be like obsessively watching the clock. But let's say, it's a 60 question test. You have to, after 30 minutes, you should be halfway done with it, right? So just at least have kind of an awareness of that, just to make sure that you're pacing yourself appropriately. And then we'll talk more about this, and I'll have some calming techniques, but focus on breathing, focus on positive thoughts. And again, I'll have some specific exercises that you can do. Does anybody have any questions about the overall, just kind of like, these are really like basic kind of test anxiety stuff. We feel good about it, I can tell. Okay. Okay. So what happens in our bodies when we get anxious? I do think, and you all probably, maybe I should have one of you come up and teach this for me, but what happens when our bodies encounter something? So evolutionarily speaking, our fight or flight system is there to keep us safe, right? So we're in a hunter-gatherer society, we're minding our business, we're walking along a path and we're gathering berries or whatever it is that we're doing, and a saber-toothed tiger jumps out right in front of us, right? Like our system is flooded with hormones with the idea that we will either run away or fight the saber-toothed tiger, right, to save our lives. Like that is why we have this system, why we get anxious, why we feel it in our bodies, right, is because there's specific things happening in our bodies that help us to be able to flee or fight. Now, come to modern times, right? Saber-toothed tigers have been extinct for 10,000 years, however long they've been extinct. But we still have that same, it's like there's a saber-toothed tiger in the room, right? Like it's the same system. Our bodies still have that same system. So a stimuli is sent to the brain. Oh my gosh, I have a test this morning, or you actually walk into the test, right? Oh my gosh, here we go. The test is coming. And then the brain deciphers the stimuli and concludes that there's a threat. There's a threat to us. And then the nervous system does all of its things, right? We increase blood pressure, increased heart rate, increased vasodilation to our blood vessels, increased glucose, and then increased neural activities to muscles so we can, either fight or run. And then our, gastric activity is decreased, increased perspiration, that sort of thing. So there's a whole, and you can, for some of you, because you're sciencey people, this may be helpful for you to actually know all the specific things and be telling yourself that in the moment. Okay, yes, I'm feeling a little jittery because, but that's just my, hypothalamus is just, that may be helpful to you. It might not, I'm not sure. But it's good for you to know, the stress response, what that is, why it happens, right? Okay, so what do we do about it? Let's say we are in the test and we feel ourselves getting, I don't know what words do you want to use? Tell me, how do you feel when you're in a test? Stressed, anxious?
Can't breathe.
Do that again?
Can't breathe.
Can't breathe, have a hard time breathing. Maybe you feel shaky.
Overwhelmed.
It's just it's hard, right? Sometimes people feel like there's something sitting on their chest a little bit. Sometimes people feel like their extremities feel tingly, all those different things. So in the moment coping skills. The first thing I want to talk about when we're talking about in the moment coping skills is, let's say you decide visualization is the coping skill that you want to go with. You cannot just do visualization when you're feeling test anxiety. That doesn't work. You have to practice a technique over and over again when you are feeling calm, when you are okay. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to access that. Again, your system is activated, right? You're not going to be able to access whatever that coping skill is. So, I'm a musician. I didn't play sports. Maybe some of you played sports. But so football coaches, they have their players, right? Or any coach for any sport, you conduct drills over and over again. Why is that? So in the big game, it's an automatic, you go to it automatically, right? You can automatically do it. Same thing why musicians practice a song over and over and over again. So it becomes like second nature to you. You have to do that with coping skills too. That practice is how you are able to implement those things. So I think, how many of you have heard of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? That's a pretty popular, people really like that one. So it's 5 list. So, let's say you need to take 60 seconds from your test to really kind of ground yourself and be in the room. So name 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can touch. And sometimes that gets a little weird if you're at a desk. It's not like you can go around and start touching things. 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. If you have water or a drink with you, that's a good thing to taste. Otherwise, probably don't taste anything if you're in the middle of a test. That would be a little weird. But so that's like a grounding exercise, right? It kind of brings you back into your body, into your present moment, into the present, calms you down a little bit, gives you something else to think about. Another thing is progressive muscle relaxation. So you will tense and then let go. And again, you don't have to necessarily make a big show of it. If you're in the middle of a test, it'd be hard to be like, I don't know what, you just kind of quietly to yourself, right? You can okay, I'm going to clench. You can start at the bottom and work your way up, or you can start at the top and work your way down. So progressive kind of muscle relaxation can be helpful. Make sure that you're breathing while you are doing that. But you tense and release different areas of muscles in your body. It's called progressive muscle relaxation. Deep breathing. There's all kinds of breathing exercises. If you just want to Google breathing exercises, you can come up with your favorite, but this is the one that I kind of like, it's this idea, because there's some visualization in it as well, is that you can close your eyes, you can have them open too, whatever you're comfortable with, but as you breathe in, you imagine that the air that you're breathing in is filled with like a sense of peace and calm. And then as you breathe out, you imagine that the stress and tension is leaving you. So there's some visualization that goes in with that. And you can say a little mantra or something if you want to as well. I breathe out stress and tension, right? And I know that seems kind of hokey when you're just kind of like talking about it, but it can be really help you really like commit to it. It can be really helpful. Body scan is like the progressive muscle relaxation, except you just notice instead of like clenching and letting go, you just notice. Without judgment, you start at one end and work to the other and just kind of notice. And you try to, again, with the breathing, try to exhale any tension that you have. A grounding object. I don't know, do any of you use a grounding object? Sometimes, yeah. That can be really helpful. Some people use a smooth stone. Some people have like a fuzzy something, right, that they carry with them everywhere in their pocket, in their backpack, whatever. And just the act of kind of holding it and rubbing it is helpful to them. Do you mind sharing what your grounding object is?
I can't really do this in a test, but I do walk out in the grass with my bare feet.
Oh,
And I do have a grounding mat at home that I can plug into.
nice. Yeah, so and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but having like a regular routine where you're regularly doing calming things, it helps you overall. It helps that like overall stress level to be lower. And so when you find yourself in a situation where your stress starts to go up, it's actually helpful that you've been doing these, even if you can't, exactly do it in a test, right? Maybe you wear flip-flops, you can kick off your flip-flops and kind of feel that. I know it's not the same as the grass, but so anyway, having something that you have to be careful. Like, I don't know what your instructors allow you to like bring into a test, but if it's, I don't know, a smooth rock seems like it would be okay to me, but I guess you need to check with your instructors to be sure. You kind of think about what am I feeling right now? How does it feel? It feels smooth, it feels cold, or whatever it is. So like a grounding object. Repeating a phrase or mantra, I am grounded, I am safe, I am present. I feel my feet on the ground, I breathe in confidence, I exhale doubt, things like that. So having something, and again, this would be something that you would have practiced, and that makes you feel safe and makes you feel grounded and present, and helps. What we're trying to do, right, is slow your heart rate down, using your respiration to bring your overall kind of feelings of anxiety in your body down. Visualization or color breathing. Again, these are all kind of similar. This is, you think of a color that's calming to you, and you breathe in that color and imagine that color kind of flooding your body and your system. And you would want, the color to be associated with a specific emotion. Blue people think of blue as calm. Usually red can be like confidence, if maybe, it's not really calm you need, but like confidence. And you kind of assign a color to it. There's no right or wrong answers to this. It's whatever you feel. And then the kind of like that, like visualizing your happy place. What does that place look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? For me, it's the beach. I feel the sand underneath my fingers. I can hear the waves. Sometimes I hear seagulls, but they're kind of weird. They in your stuff. So, you know what I mean? But so like you hear the waves, you smell the salty air, you can feel the breeze. And again, you have to practice that. You can't, in the moment you get a test, you cannot just go to a happy place. You have to have been practicing that. So whatever that, whatever your happy place is, imagining that, fleshing that out, and then being able to, practice going there could be helpful. The other thing, I do this a lot. I have kids that live in different states, and so I will go and visit them. And then as I'm leaving, I will be sad that I'm leaving them, but I don't want to cry on the airplane or in an airport. And so I do this cognitive reset a lot when I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed. Count backwards from 100 by threes. So 100, 97, 94, 91. You have to think about it a little bit. That's the whole point, is you have to actually like put a little bit of brain power. If you do that, count backwards from 100s by threes. If you do that often enough, it'll become automatic to you. If it's automatic, it's not helping in the same way that it's not cognitively resetting the way we want it to. So switch to sevens or switch to something else. I'm reading a book right now where when the main character feels overwhelmed, she recites a textbook that she knows very well, and she'll just kind of remember. It could be like song lyrics or movie quotes or a favorite poem or just something that you know, where it kind of like resets. Get your mind, you want to get your mind off what you're feeling so stressed about, and then be able to go back to what's stressing you out in a calmer way. If that makes sense. Anybody have any questions about these specific like calming mechanisms? Does anybody have a calming mechanism that they use? Yeah.
I do the square breathing.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up because here's the thing. Okay. So do you want to explain square breathing, or do you want me to explain square breathing?
This is how I was taught. So
Okay.
I breathe in my nose through 4 counts. I hold it for 4 counts and I blow out of my mouth for 4 counts.
Yep.
And I focus and I keep doing that.
Yep.
Until my anxiety is calmed down.
And the idea of that is if you look around the room, there are squares and rectangles all over the room. So you can kind of like, as you go, breathe in, and you're just kind of mentally following. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. It's that kind of idea that you can kind of use a visual piece. I want to say something. If anxiety, if you have a lot of anxiety, sometimes holding, think about if you're holding your breath, your body's not getting what it needs, even if it's for a small amount of time, the 4 counts. And again, for some people, that's totally fine. It's just like a pause. But if you are a very anxious person, I struggle with anxiety. And so the holding actually makes me more anxious. If that is the case for you, you can modify square by breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So if the holding, a lot of breathing exercises have holding to them. If you're like, this breathing does not work, I don't know why, it is not working for me. It could be the holding. Sometimes the holding actually makes us feel more anxious. So just a caveat to that. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Any other what else do you do? Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm super anxious.
Yeah, that's all good.
Sorry. So
I mean, not
I
for
do,
you.
like,
It's not good for you, but yeah.
like somatic. So like I rub my hands,
Sure.
my fingers, and I rub them, and it helps like bring me back
Yeah.
where I am, like bring me back to me.
Yeah. Even if you have a little lotion or something, that can be really helpful too. Again, I don't know what you have access to in your test, but that can be really, I keep lotion. So I do a lot of right, telehealth kind of things where, and so it is a little weird. Like if I have a client right across from me to like bring out the lotion and be like, a minute. So if I do it, I can do it like off screen if I'm, it's just kind of it just feels good. You know what I mean? It is calming. But yeah, you can just kind of,
I end up doing like finger touches, but then it makes me more anxious. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I just go faster and faster, and then I get more anxious.
So
Yeah.
So I think you bring up a really good point of, so, you can look up all kinds of like calming exercises, grounding exercises, sometimes they're called, and maybe that works for you sometimes, or maybe it works for you in a certain way, or maybe it's not working for you. And so then you want to try to find something else. So that's a good reason to practice these things too, is so you kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I had a client once who would like rub her hands on her pants, and like that, the friction of that, there's something about that. We have these in the counseling department. We have these like calm strips. Have you heard of those? They're like textured, and you can put them like on your laptop or on your water bottle or on something. And they're stickers. They're small stickers, but they are textured. And so the texture of it they're calming. And so what they're called calm strips. Yeah.
For my test anxiety, it's more that like I feel like I'm forgetting something like the night before.
Sure.
So then I can't sleep because I keep waking up and I'm like, oh, I didn't set my alarm, so now I'm gonna do it, but I did set my alarms. So I bring up just all the things into my notes. I set my alarms, I studied what I need to study, all my assignments are done, and then that helps me be like, okay, it's all done, go to sleep.
So you actually write that like in your notes.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good, if you're anxious when you're going to sleep, either a notes app, make sure you have like a light blocker on your phone after a certain amount of time, because sometimes the blue light from the phone can keep you awake. But or I am old, so what I do is I have a notepad and pen, okay? But either way, what you're doing is you're offloading. You're getting it out of your brain and you're putting it on I don't have to worry about that anymore because I've written that down. There's something about that, and studies have shown that it works, that is helpful. It's another thing you could do before a test is write down, whatever you're worried about before the test starts. Maybe you get out a piece of paper and you write and you offload your worries before the test starts. That can be really helpful. I feel like, yes.
The biggest thing that's helped me is like manifesting that I'm going to do good in the test.
Sure.
And then I honestly end up doing better in the test than I would have if I didn't do that. I feel like.
Yeah, no. I think that there's something about that. And again, that's where it gets a little hokey. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm a very like, my counseling is like evidence-based counseling, right? And so there's some things that like, we don't really know why they work, but they just work. And it's that the power of your mind. I mean, I think you'll find this in patients too, right? They say that patients, if they believe that they're going to get better, then, sometimes they do get better, and there's that power of positive mindset or whatever. And again, I know it seems a little hokey, but there's something to be said for that. Like going in with that confidence of, no, I am going to do well. There is something to that. Yeah. Did I see another hand raised or am I crazy? Okay.
Sometimes I put you can't really do it during a test, but I'll take like an ice ball and rub it on my face. And then I feel like sometimes if I'm like taking a test, my water bottles usually cold.
Yeah.
Against my chest or like my neck.
For sure. And it makes sense, right? Like physically, you're like cooling your skin a little bit. But yeah, there's something about temperature. They talk about holding an ice cube, in your hand, or putting it over your face, or cool water. Maybe you can, if you're allowed to go take a break, you go into the bathroom and splash some cold water on your face. There's something about temperature that can be really helpful. Yeah.
I like chew gum. Like if I'm in class, I'll chew gum. If I'm studying, I'll chew gum. And if I take a test, I'll chew gum.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that does, but it helps.
No, so something about creating conditions that you study when you're taking the test can be really helpful. And so, there's, if for you it's gum chewing and you found that trick that works for you, then I think that that's great. They talk about like, if you can study in the room where you're going to be taking the test, that's just not always possible, right? But trying to recreate the test conditions as much as possible is helpful. Any of these are great, like tips and tricks.
Mine kind of goes along, but I use lavender. When I'm studying, I always use lavender, and then when I come in for the test, I try to sit away from everybody. Of lavender oil in my wrist.
Okay.
So like anytime I feel anxious or whatever, I do try to smell that, and it does help me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it helps me remember a little bit more too.
Yeah. Well, it calms you. That's the thing is, so let's say the saber-toothed tiger has jumped in front of you, and you have to, fight or flee. Our access to our big human brain, right, our frontal lobe is cut off. And that is why we can't remember things as well when we're feeling super stressed, right? Because our body has decided we need to fight or flee. We don't need to remember facts about stuff. We need to just run away from the saber-toothed tiger. And so it'll calm you, that lavender. So the smell, right? An actual smell that calms you could be lavender, could be something else. And you found that that's really helpful to you. I think that that's awesome. Again, figure out sometimes we figure out what works for us accidentally. Whatever works for you, do that thing. Like that is practice it and then do it. That's going to be helpful. Anything else? Any other like coping? Yeah.
I feel like when I get like overwhelmed during my test, I like physically close my eyes and just start breathing. And I feel like visual like stimulation like trips me out.
So just kind of you're kind of resetting a little bit. Yeah, that kind of, so by closing your eyes, so like how do you like deep breathing, or how do you?
I try to deep breathe. I can't hold it though, because I get more like anxiety.
Sure. Okay, so kind of like just deep, and they say that the exhale is more important than the inhale. So if you're able to make the exhale go a little bit longer, that's great. Again, if you find you're doing that and it's making you feel more anxious, you have to be kind of in tune with yourself. What calms you, what makes you more anxious? And you just do that by trial and error, right? Like you kind of figure out. Anybody else? Thank you all for sharing. I appreciate that. So there's this idea of, let's say you are super stressed out. You go into a test and if we think of your stress level as like 1 to 100, and you're having a really hard time and it's a really difficult week, and you're going into the test at like a 60, let's say, out of 100, and then the test brings you up another 40 points, you are maxed out, you're topped out. You cannot be any more stressed than you are now. But if you go into that test at like a 10, and then it brings you up 40, then you're like at a 50, right? Am I making sense with that? So like the lower you can keep your overall anxiety in general. And again, how many of you you're like nursing students, exercise science students? Yeah. So like you're in rigorous, go ahead.
We're all in nursing.
Oh, no, all in the nursing program. So like it's a rigorous program. There's a lot going on, right? I get that. You are going to be stressed about that. But the more you can do with like keeping your self-care and keeping yourself calm, and keeping that overall stress level as low as possible is going to be helpful. So the way that I like to conceptualize self-care is through the wellness wheel. There's 8 different dimensions. Kind of looks like this. But there's in these different dimensions, physical is going to be really important. But there's other dimensions as well. So with physical wellness, right, it's nutrition, physical activity, getting enough sleep. When you get to be my age, preventative medicine or going to the doctor regularly and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, responsible use of alcohol and marijuana, etc. I know we have a wine mom culture. I have no judgment, but like, be thinking about how that affects you if that is you. Intellectual wellness. So again, you all are in school right now. So intellectual wellness is being taken care of. You are learning new stuff. This is for when you're out of school and, continuing education and, or just learning new hobbies and stuff, just to keep that muscle being flexed. Financial wellness. It's hard if you're really stressed about money, then that kind of carries over into other areas. Again, your students, so easier said than done. But like, how is your financial wellness? Is there something you could do differently? The answer to that may be no. Environmental wellness. So that it kind of talks about green living, but also like getting changes of scenery. If you go from home to school to work, to home to school to work, and you're not really getting any changes of scenery, you take the same route that you drive every day. Humans, we crave consistency, but we also need some novelty in our lives. So changes of scenery. Also, like some people are very, very comfortable in clutter. Maybe you can study in clutter. I cannot. So to your comfortability, like maybe like organizing workspaces, organizing your digital space might be helpful for you. Spiritual wellness. So this can be religion, or it doesn't necessarily have to be religion. So have you thought about your values, your principles, your beliefs? Are you, involved in areas where you're able to talk about your beliefs with other people? Do you take time to experience the beauty of nature when possible? Do you talk to people who have other belief systems, right? That's spiritual wellness. Social wellness is really important. Humans are social creatures. We are more disconnected than ever with the internet, etc. So, are you regularly doing things that hit that social wellness, helping to maintain and create new relationships, friendships, etc. So, are you making the time to spend time with the people that you care about? Occupational wellness. So if work is your job right now, do you feel like it's a good fit for you? Do you feel like you can openly talk to fellow students, your instructors, etc.? And I think this is a big one. Do you recognize the good work that you're doing, how hard it is, et cetera, et cetera? Like, do you really like remember that? And then the last one, my favorite as a counselor, Do you acknowledge your feelings without judgment? You know, are you avoiding unnecessary stress, accepting things you cannot change? Are there opportunities to set different boundaries in your life, et cetera, right? Like that emotional wellness. Anybody have any questions about like, these are things, if all of these things are working in harmony, and again, you may not like the environmental wellness, you'd be like, I don't really care about that so much. But the physical wellness, like I need to really work on that. Do you know what I mean? Like there may be different, or maybe you recognize that like, well, physically I take care of myself pretty good, but gosh, I just don't ever see my friends anymore. Do you know what I mean? And that again, that overall, we're trying to keep that overall stress level as low as possible. And I get that I'm saying that to nursing students. I come from a family of nurses. I know it's hard. I get it. Or I've heard that it's hard. Yeah. Any questions? I really like, again, you have access to these slides, so you're able to look this up, but like creating a healthier life step by step, it has more ideas around wellness, all these different areas of wellness. So feel free to, you know, look that up. It's a 22-page PDF. It's, you know, that you can just download. Root causes of test anxiety. So these are like like where does this, kind of thinking about where your test anxiety comes from can be helpful. So there's a couple of different like ideas of root causes. Fear of the unknown. So if you have a fear of like, I don't know what this test is going to be like, try to like talk to your instructor. What will the test be like? How can I recreate the test conditions? Ask your instructor for more details. Try to find old tests and practice them. Fear of inadequacy, like I'm not good enough, right? Prepare throughout the semester, know the gaps, study those, like fake it till you make it with the confidence, write out your worries before the test. We talked about that. Seek out help from instructors or tutoring or counseling if needed. Like we, again, we can talk to you more about this kind of stuff. Fear of the stakes. If it's a math test or an English, I don't know, a history exam or something, it may very well be that, you know, one test doesn't define you. I get that you have exams that you take that are, right, like make or break, right? You either you pass this or you don't, and you're, you know, you got to retake something if you don't. So I put this little exception down here. There are some tests that have high stakes, but you can work through that in other ways. And I assume most of those things you can retake a second time. Like it would suck to have to do that, but it's possible. Yeah. Fear of not being perfect. This idea that perfect is the enemy of good. When I really like confronted my perfectionism, I found that was a root of just my overall anxiety. So kind of thinking about that. Just, guess it's like 35. I just want you to know that, like, again, DRS is if you feel like being diagnosed with anxiety could be helpful for you and you could get accommodations, that is a resource for you, but also counseling. So we, you can make an appointment with us. We can sit down with you. We can maybe explore some of like the root causes of anxiety, but we can also talk about in the moment coping skills and help you find ones that work for you. Really anything. We can talk to you about anything. And so we are here for you on this campus. We're in building 37N on the Red Mountain campus. It's the Palo Verde building, the second floor. And then my email address is up here. So if you have any questions or, you know, specific questions that you want answered, I'm totally open to that. Please feel free to email me anytime. Does anybody have any like overall, was there anything I didn't talk about in regards to test anxiety that you were hoping to get from this? Or is there any particular issue that you struggle with test anxiety that I didn't talk about that you would like us to talk about? Yeah.
I was just gonna comment about the DRS, because I've been struggling with test anxiety and I took my first exam testing center yesterday with the DRS accommodation. World of difference. So if there is an issue, pursue it, and it really helped a lot. Just having, I struggle with paying attention to what is around me and I get easily distracted. So if I see somebody finish their exam, then I freak out. I'm like, oh my gosh, and not having other people in there. I mean, there's people in there, but you don't know if they're taking the same exam as you or something else. So just having that not present improved my focus, improved my performance, made me recall information that had been buried in there. So I highly, highly recommend it.
That's awesome. Thank you for that like testimonial, because I think that's good. That's a good thing. So it can be helpful. And it's not just anxiety, it is like focus things too, right? And
that's more or less how I got it, was more focused.
Yeah.
I realized my anxiety was a lot lower too, which
Sure.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah. That how they go hand in hand. So yeah, and if you know someone who's struggling, recommend that to them. DRS can be a really great resource. And it's a resource that we have too, right? We have tons of resources on campus for us to help us be successful as students. And MCC, that is our goal, is for you to be successful. Anything else? Any closing thoughts? I just appreciate everybody's time and attention today. I know everybody's super busy. And so to come and sit down in person or to watch online or to watch the recording, right, is a time commitment. And so really appreciate that. And